Well, it's official. South Africa has ditched the mask after 2 years of COVID-19 restrictions. The Department of Basic Education has also confirmed that the wearing of face masks by pupils and teachers in classrooms and on school premises is no longer required. However, they may continue to do so if they wish. For more on this, I'm joined by a spokesperson for the Department of Education, Elijah Mhlanga. Elijah, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Now, the Minister has welcomed the decision of optional mask wearing since the regulation was repealed by the Minister of Health last week. What are some of the reactions that you've received from your different schooling communities or stakeholders?
Good afternoon, Katlego. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Maybe before we get to that, let's start by conveying our condolences to the families, those that their loved ones passed away in this tragedy this morning in East London. It looks like the majority, if not all of them, are our learners. So we need to just convey a message of support to those families. Now, let's come to your question. Well, one of the things that the department always wanted to do since COVID was to try get back learning to continue in some form or another, and we tried to normalize the situation as much as possible. But one of the things that we also need to take into account is the issue of safety. We needed to make sure that all our teachers, staff, and learners are safe in school. That's why we adhered strictly to the regulations that were put in place. So when the time came that we were studying the infection rate of COVID-19, there was a view in the sector late last year already that we needed to start thinking about the mask itself. But we waited for the leadership of the Department of Health, who are the one leading on this matter. So when the announcement was finally made this week, there was some relief that learners were no longer going to be forced to wear a mask and that teachers could teach without wearing a mask. But we also cautioned that COVID-19 is still around and that we need to take the greatest care to make sure that we stay protected.
Now, the SA School Governing Body Association welcomed the decision, saying that some pupils struggled to hear their teachers while wearing masks, and it becomes more difficult for teachers to gauge if pupils have understanding of the lesson. What are some of the lessons that the department has learned in these 2 years in relation to how children were adversely affected by the wearing of masks?
Well, we have received several papers that talk to the issue of learning losses. And as a department, we also conducted our own study to look at the losses that we incurred as a result of COVID-19. The issue of the mask was one such factor, especially among younger children, who expect to see the face of the teacher standing in front of them, but also wanting to see how a particular word is formed in the mouth when it is spoken. I'm talking about foundation learning here, where learners are still learning how to read, still learning how to say words, and the mask denied them of that opportunity. So this could have also impacted negatively on the learning and teaching that was taking place in the classrooms. That's why the minister made a request last year for primary school kids to go back to full-time daytime timetabling in August, and that happened. And that's one of the arguments that we put forward, that our younger learners were being impacted negatively by the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. So that has had a huge impact in the last 2 years, but we believe that with the changes that have taken place now, we should begin to see an improvement in the performance of learners, because the situation has been normalized with the absence of a mask inside the classroom.
Speaking of those learners in the foundation phases, some parents, especially those of the younger children, have expressed skepticism, saying that it's the winter season, colds and flus are at their peak. Coronavirus, like you also said, is still very much with us, and the numbers to date are sitting at around 941. Is it not too premature for children to be given that prerogative of whether or not they want to wear a mask? Could this not then maybe be postponed to the fourth term where it's a lot warmer?
Not at all. You know, you can still wear a mask if you wish to do so. We have said that schools could make that decision that they will continue to wear a mask. that can still happen. So optional masks are still available. Whoever wishes to use them, they are free to do so. But it cannot be something that should be enforced in all the 25,000 schools. It must be choice now. That's what the Department of Health said after assessing the situation and making that kind of determination. So we are not saying remove it at all costs. No, we are not saying that. We are saying it is there. Use it if you think you need it in your environment. And if you have a concern as a parent, feel free to approach the school and tell them that your child will be wearing the mask. And the school will be able to assist you in that regard because it remains optional. We know that some schools did send letters saying that they would continue with masks, which is fine, as long as parents are aware of what the school is doing, as long as there's an agreement on this one. So that's what we are saying. No one is forced to take it off and no one is forced to wear it.
So what you're saying, Mr. Elijah, just for me to find clarity here, a school, an individual school can take the decision to enforce the wearing of masks as long as it's in agreement with the parents of that school?
Absolutely. If they believe that they need to do that, as you indicated there, that there's a certain number, you said there was 900 cases, you will find that there are some learners or some teachers that are affected in that number that belong to a certain school. So if they feel that in order to contain the spread of coronavirus in that particular school, certain measures need to be put in place, and one of those measures is the wearing of a mask, they are free to do so. But they need to communicate because the national state of disaster is no longer here. We are no longer using it. So that type of determination must be made with the cooperation of the parents, caregivers, and those that are there responsible for the school.
All right, thank you for that. That's Mr. Elijah Mhlanga, who is the spokesperson for the Department of Education. Thank you so much for your time and for your insights, and that is on the wearing of masks at schools by pupils.